All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as people are jumping into the webinar, take a moment, locate the chat area at the bottom of your screen on the right. I have no doubt you'll have some questions, so throw those in. I'll ask for them periodically, but go ahead and ask those anytime as we're talking today. As a quick introduction on my end, I'm Gabriela Cubeiro. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CASEpeer. CASEpeer is the #1 rated software. We're built specifically for personal injury law firms. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Glen Lerner. He is the founding partner of Lerner Rowe, which may not need an introduction, but just in case, over the last 30 years, Lerner Rowe has become one of the largest multi-state law firms in the United States. Over 450 employees and operations spanning nationwide. Glen is an industry veteran with decades of experience in PI, and over this time, he's witnessed firsthand the evolution of what it looks like to own and operate a practice, especially one of that size. And today we're going to talk about adaptation and how to prepare for the future of law as Glen sees it. So Glen, welcome. So excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Gabriela.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how things looked in the landscape when you started your firm. I mean, no internet marketing probably yet, right? What was that like?
It was a lot different. Gosh, I remember my first month, I spent $10,000 on TV when I started my One Call That's All campaign. And we got 66 clients. So there's $166 a case. And I was like, man, I think we're onto something here. And, you know, obviously with bell curves, it doesn't quite stay that way forever as you grow. I wish it had, but we know it's gotten really competitive now, marketing, you know, and now you have just so many opportunities for people to compete with you in different mediums, whether it's billboards, radio, obviously online, so many different ways to compete online, whether it's conventional methods with SEO, strong websites, but, you know, obviously the new things, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Gosh, you know, you get some attorneys now that have never spent a cent on TV, but they've become Instagram famous. You know, so it's interesting. It's very interesting, you know, you know, I've been doing this 32 years and, you know, just seeing how it's changing. And if you don't evolve and adapt, I think you become extinct. So we're trying to figure out, you know, even though, you know, we spend so much money, gosh, we spend, you know, just on single event cases, well over $25 million a year on advertising. How are we going to try to compete with all these other people that are always nipping at us in all these other mediums where it's hard to compete with people that are younger? They think differently. You know, my partner and I was just talking about it the other day. We're old. You know, I'm 58. He's 51. And we think like old people. I still, you know, we still watch TV and this and that. And we don't get our information. Geez, I've never had a social media page. I just never, I don't know. I was never into it. But, you know, we have for our office Facebook pages and Instagram, but young people, you know, this is their whole life, all their information, the news, everything they get is TikTok. We're starting up. We were doing some TikTok stuff ourselves. We're doing these stupid things where I'm dancing, I'm making a fool of myself, and I'm like, I'm done making a fool of myself. So we're actually starting a TikTok ad campaign, and you know, we'll see how that works. But it's, I mean, it's just trying to figure out where the world's going all the time. And that's a hard thing. You know, no matter how much experience you have, it's trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, and I'd love to hear from those of you watching. Give us a chat if you're on TikTok and if that's working for you for generating cases. I'd be interested. I certainly talk to people where that's where they get a lot of their cases, and a lot of times it's the kids referring the parents when the parents need an attorney, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. And atypical. In terms of kind of the quote unquote, I guess, old way of doing things, of course, some of those are still working. What are you finding that's working best?
You know, it's always hard to say because our advertising is, you know, a little unique to us, where we We've branded phone numbers for so long. So much with us is our jingle, call 877-1500 or call 222-2222 or whatever it is.
That'll be
Whatever
good to
city,
dance
state.
to, by the way, Glenn. Just saying.
Yeah, but it's the jingles. So we branded numbers. And so we've never been able to advertise like billboards with different numbers to be able to track the efficiency and our ROI. So for us to see ROI for billboards, radio, TV, it's always kind of a guesstimate.
Especially with your brand, which I see Guy chatting in about. I mean, you guys have an incredibly well-known brand in the markets. I mean, Vegas, Arizona, you guys have been there for 30 years.
Certainly, maybe, aside from Morgan, because of his just reach now nationwide, and maybe one or two others, I don't know if there's a better legal brand in the country in terms, especially across multiple states. But it's been, because we've kind of been innovative with that.
Yeah.
But there are opportunity costs with that. And that's the ability to determine the ROI for each medium. And, but we figured it'd be better to just develop the brand this way and deal with the guesstimates rather than having all the information in front of us, but not having that same type of brand and that jingle.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And I see that on our end too. A lot of it's like people like, I don't know where someone was talking about you. I kind of already knew about you. And I mean, that's the nature of things these days. It's not like they flipped open to the phone book and could pick you off a list. So it's very different.
Well, I think you're trying to, no matter what, you're trying to become ubiquitous with a brand, that your brand is everywhere. And I think one of the cool things for us, whenever there are memes, we're pretty famous for memes, if someone says they're from Las Vegas, make them prove it by telling you Glen Lerner's phone number, things like that. So that's when you've become, almost part of the pop culture of your community. And I reckon just based on longevity, we probably have. And, ours is a little unique too, because we're so involved in our communities in terms of our gives back and how we're so involved in philanthropy.
You were one of the first firms that was on my radar doing the turkey give back, things like that around Thanksgiving. Nowadays, I see everybody doing it, and it's a good thing because, they're doing a lot of good work. But I think you guys were one of the first ones that pioneered that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things is we try to, I'm an evangelist, so any opportunity I have to, whether it's in my faith or just with other attorneys, help them go out and touch people in their community. We're always willing to teach people what they can do, because if we can do it, anybody can do it. But by doing that, you're touching lives.
Yeah.
So even though we're not in Louisville, Kentucky, if we can speak to Daryl Isaacs and tell Daryl how we're doing it, then he touches people, and so it's a networking opportunity in that respect to help people.
Yeah, I love that. And along those lines, we obviously talked during COVID, and obviously that had a huge impact on the industry. I'd love to kind of hear your take on how you think how that affected your firm, and then maybe what you're seeing in terms of the landscape, because I think we're all still suffering the effects of that very much so.
Well, I think it changed America, it changed the world. And obviously, I think as a result, it changed all of our businesses going forward. It changed all of our businesses going forward. I think, just Crane's Chicago business said only 50% of Chicagoans are back in their office. That means 50% of people still working remotely. That's 50% fewer people on the roads in the mornings and the afternoons. What happens when that happens? Fewer accidents.
Yeah.
Now you add in inflation, you add in gas prices are going up. People aren't driving the way they were. So what's going to happen? Cases go down. And, there are probably people with smaller practices that are saying, hey, I was doing 8 cases a month up until COVID. Now I'm doing 22 cases a month. Oh, business has gone up 250%. Yeah, but when you're doing 20,000 cases a year and it goes down 10 or 15%, you can see that.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be honest. I'm the guy who's never going to lie about cases. If we're down, we're down. If we're up, we're up.
Yeah.
If we're down, how are we going to evolve?
Yeah.
The world's changed. So you can either, I think in the beginning I curled up in the fetal position and I was like, oh my God, we built this amazing business and what's happened? It's been taken away overnight. And then you wake up the next day, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be better. And that's what happened. This has been a 2.5 year process of how can we be better in every aspect of our business, as bosses, as lawyers, developing cases, treating our clients better, doing more in the community so that you're going to get more out of what you have. And I think that's what everybody's trying to do.
Optimization has been on your mind a lot over the last 1.5 to 2 years.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And just generating more value from every case that you have in whether it's in CASEpeer or anywhere else, right? We have a question here going back a little bit to the marketing with the brand that you guys have built and metrics. Does the firm think about things like cost per acquisition and case or consultation, or is it more focusing generally on growth?
Well, you obviously have to consider case cost acquisition prices. I'm on top of my marketing people nonstop. Hey, our numbers are here. Our cost per case is going up to this, or our cost per case. And it depends on the month. Obviously, over the last 6 months, I don't think that's a true barometer of anybody's practice, especially a large volume practice like ours, because we had the elections. The two of the 4 biggest cities in the United States for electoral spend were Phoenix and Vegas. Vegas was number 1, Phoenix was number 4. So if we're getting bumped nonstop, we spend well over $1 million a month in Phoenix advertising. We're getting bumped nonstop. So people aren't going to see us much, but they're not seeing our competitors as much either. But obviously it's so important for us to measure our case cost acquisition price, because as it keeps going up, there's a point where we have to make changes. But the model's getting more competitive all the time. It just is.
I remember, Glenn, the last time we had you on a webinar, you were talking about how one of the most important things actually is that cost per case, because you need to make sure that you're making your money back, right? If you don't know how much you're spending on a case or on your average case, you need to make sure that your average fee is above that. And those margins have gotten smaller over the decades.
You're going to make money in this business. It's just you're going to make less money if your cost per case keeps going up. And don't forget, we have inflation. So if you have $25,000 policy limits and you're still banging out a lot of them, that money, when it comes to your pocket and your employees' pockets, it's still less money. Every month you're making less money, even though thinking you're making the same money.
Yeah.
Those are all things that people don't consider so often. All these other extraneous forces that are going to cause us to have to make radical changes in our business models.
So speaking of COVID, we talked about a lot of businesses working from home. 50% of employees in Chicago still working from home. And that's impacting law firms nationwide as well. A lot of people celebrate the flexibility, celebrate the ability to work from home. But I hear the opposite from lots of people. And also it's made hiring difficult. What are you seeing out there?
Personally, everything I do is a sports analogy. My whole life is just talking about Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. I'm so into this process of teamwork, coaching people, mentoring, loving your people, being there. And it's very difficult to create that culture, to have people, to joke with people, to love people when they're at the other end of a Zoom or something. And that's the office. Now, I know a lot of my friends around the country have gone to completely remote. And they're like, we're so efficient and the culture's great because the people are happy. But how long can that be sustained? Human beings are social animals. I am fully convinced of that. We thrive when we're with one another, when we're working together, when we're bouncing ideas off one another. We're not going to bounce those ideas off one another if we got to go reach out electronically to somebody all the time. I love the fact that people can just be cackling and joking at the proverbial water cooler or telling jokes, but there's an exchange of energy, and that's part of your culture. And I'm so afraid we'll lose our culture. Now, one of the problems we've had people come back, and it's usually 4 days on, 1 day off. A lot of times, if you're doing really well, 3 days on, 2 days at home. If there are reasons, medical reasons you can't be in, great. But gosh, I want people there. And that's hurting us because a lot of our people are like, well, I'll just go work for someone who lets me work full-time remote. But I don't believe full-time remote in the long term is going to be the best thing for a business's soul.
Yeah.
You know, the business has a soul, and that's the people. Lerner Rowe isn't the two guys at the top. It's our people.
Yeah.
And if they're just all in their little units,
it translates to the client, right? The client experience is passing on that culture and that joy that people have working together.
I'm just so afraid of losing what's made us us, you know. So much of what's really helped us be us is the things we do in the community and the way we've been able to engage our employee base and galvanize them by them being involved. I mean, they give up their time to be involved with all our events. They don't get paid. They do it because they love who we are. They love what we do. And it's an amazing thing to be part of something that's more than just a law firm. But to come together, you know, once a month to do some sort of a giveaway or a backpack giveaway or a Thanksgiving giveaway, that's not culture. It's like people every day interacting. And man, I want to get that back. And it's so hard as an owner because we were just talking about it this morning. We're fighting against all these law firms that are trying to pick off our employees one by one by offering work from home nonstop. It's all yours.
And talent has been hard to find. I know you mentioned that when we spoke. I've been hearing that from other law firms. Is it related to this, or is it just looking for experienced people in general? What's your read on the situation?
No, it all changed. It all changed post-COVID. People don't want to work. You got the people that you interview with. I mean, our HR attorney, who does all our hiring and everything. It's just amazing how many feelers we have out, and everybody, can I work from home full time? This and that. It's just, you can't make exceptions because eventually exceptions will become the norm.
Yeah.
And it's been really hard hiring for the last couple of years. And the problem is, for so long, everybody on this phone, especially if they have a decent volume practice, we've all hired from the same cesspool. Guys that worked for me 10 years ago that went to work for a competitor for $1 more, that went to work for this guy for 25 cents more, and they've made it around the whole neighborhood. And now they're back in the hiring pool. Or you're hiring from some firms that aren't as good, and you know they don't have good practices there. And that's the talent pool. So we've said, man, we want out of this. We are looking completely different places for talent. I want to hire from the hospitality industry. Our business model is about service and people. I can teach anybody in the world to do what we do. It is not rocket science. It's giving people the vision of what you're trying to do, and then they have clearly defined processes by which they're going to achieve the goals that you're going to set for them. But ultimately, it comes down to one thing. What type of people are they? Are they high-character people? Do they love people? Are they able to seduce and flirt with the clients? When I say that, it's not in a sexual way.
Feel loved.
In this wonderful way that makes the people feel accepted. Just like a waiter seduces you when you're eating and, oh my God, he's amazing. That's what you want your clients to feel like with the case managers. Man, they're amazing. They care about me. They cater to my needs. In the normal cesspool of people, they don't do that. You need people that are people that you just teach a new skill, but they have that character. And they love people. You can't fake loving people.
No, it's a beautiful way to put it. And one of the things to that point, though, I think that you will have the advantage bringing people into an office space, because when you have people like that, you can teach them the rest, and they can learn from the culture and learn from the team everything else that they need to know.
And, you know, we're getting ready. We've been, you know, talking about next building, and, you know, we're looking at, you know, building a big place that can house, you know, we have about 300 people in Arizona, just in the Arizona office, that could house 300 people but like hotel them. I'm really into that whole concept
Yeah.
now of hoteling employees. Nobody has their own desk. It's just you sit any open space. I mean, I've seen some amazing
Really
offices.
collaborative.
Offices of the future. But where you, all right, you can work from home X number of days, but the X number of days a month, you have to be in with your team. X number of days, the entire office statewide has to be together. But we got to figure out ways to get the army together. And, you know, I'm trying anything that my partner's like, well, no one wants to come in the office. So why are we going to spend $1 trillion on a, 300-person office?
If you build it, they will come, Glenn.
I believe so. Ping pong tables, pool tables, have chefs come in. You got to do everything you can to make people want to be there. Monday night football parties. You want people to stay. My partner's, great idea. But you don't have kids anymore. Your kids are all grown. These people have kids. They can't just say Monday night, I'm going to, go hang out and watch the Patriots and the Bills.
You've got plenty of people on the team, I think, that would really enjoy that. And young people do too. It's where, young people, when they're at the start of their career, that's where they're making friends. They make them at work.
Well, it depends on your office, though, too. Our Chicago office is 95% millennials. A small percentage of them have children. Our Arizona office, more mature, I think, a significant percentage of working moms and dads. And so, I mean, you have to adjust it accordingly.
Well, you're doing cookie decorating instead around the holidays, and bring in the families and get people in.
I'm open to any suggestions online. I'm just learning like everybody else is in this brave new world as you try to become, you're trying to be the best boss you can be no matter what. For me, I obviously take the whole concept of Christian stewardship very seriously. You're a steward of the people to whom God puts in your employ. And so I want the people when, the 8-9 hours a day that they're with us, I want this to be the best job. I want them to go home and be better husbands and wives and parents. Never wanted to be one of those parents, but one of those bosses that ever denigrate or ever speak down to people, that they go home and they don't feel good about themselves. You want to build your people up. If your people are happy, they're going to have great home lives, but they're going to be great to your clients.
Yeah.
And I think we've achieved that culturally. And that's my biggest fear with what we're talking about, is that if we're not able to interact with them and really be with them and get that energy that we give them, that eventually we just become like any other law firm, just a little bigger, And I don't like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, speaking of stewardship, I know that you love mentoring younger lawyers or older lawyers that want to be mentored. I mean, whatever the situation is. And as this market gets more and more competitive, and as that cost per case gets more and more expensive, especially outside of people's immediate referral networks, it's getting harder for people to go out on their own, for people to thrive on their own. And the market is changing too. There's more interest in outside investment in legal, and laws might be changing around that in the next 10 years. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you see for small firms and the future?
It's changing. I truly believe consolidation is coming to our business model. I say to all my attorneys, we have all the claims attorneys, and they have, you could pile it up as high as the Empire State Building. They got that many cases, these guys. I'm like, it's like manna from heaven. You don't know where they come from, but they're always on your desk, right? Our brand brings all these in. You're trying to get out from under the pile of cases. But not everybody can create all those cases. The case is the commodity. And, lawyers always forget that. They always think that they're the commodity, but you're not a commodity. None of us are. That client in that case is the commodity, and the ability to create those cases, and it's getting more competitive to acquire them. It's getting more difficult to maximize values, to keep your office doors open. And I just think, people have had an inventory that they built up, they stashed away prior to COVID, and that's starting to run down. I think we're seeing it around the country. A lot of guys, you're hearing about guys that are just struggling now that had good practices because it's gotten more competitive and because there are fewer cases, and you need X number of cases every month to keep your hopper full, to keep making a profit. And I just think there's going to be the opportunity to consolidate firms, to build bigger firms. And we're kind of in that position. I never want to say that too big to fail position, but I think that too big to ever go back. You know, so I think for us now, it's more go big or go home. We're just looking to keep growing. Obviously, if we can find people that we share common goals and values in markets we'd like to be in, we'd love to talk to people. I think there's a lot of opportunity where, you know, this ain't the easiest thing in the world. There's not one person listening to this right now that's going to say, oh man, I love running a law practice. It's so easy. It's hard to be a lawyer and to run a law business. That's why I was a very gifted trial lawyer, but I gave that up to run a business. I run a business now, but to wear both hats, that's a recipe for disaster. And I think for a lot of people, probably the right choice going forward in a lot of situations, especially if it's getting to be stressful, is just being a lawyer. Why not be a lawyer under somebody else's umbrella? Or even keep your own brand, but have somebody else manage it and take away what wastes most of your time, which is managing the day-to-day. You know, whether it's me or it's somebody else. Yes, the managing of the firm, the number of people we have just in management to manage the people that are working the cases, you know, and that's not for everybody. And I think a lot of people, when they started this and they start growing, they didn't realize what they were signing up for. You know, you're running a business. And it's just the commodity is human misery.
I love that. Well, no, but it's very true. I see that you know, it's one of the reasons that we started CASEpeer was really trying to give law firms better tools to manage the business side of things, to manage those cases better, to generate more value from those cases. But still, you can give people the recipe. But when you're busy 98% of the time doing the legal work, that doesn't leave enough time to manage the business. And you know, we're seeing this across industries, whether you're talking about legal tech or law. I agree. I think that consolidation is happening. We see really big established firms like Morgan & Morgan coming into markets, generating more competition, or you know, or Lerner Rowe, depending on what market we're looking at. And it is changing the dynamic.
I think absolutely. You know, it's a shame, but I think it's happened in any business. You know,
it is.
All the mom and pops around the world, when Walmart came in, or True Value comes in, or any other, you know, big national chain. It is what it just is what it is.
It's the nature of
it's evolution.
Yeah. And Guy's calling out the 5.4 rules. So you're in, you know, one of your big areas is Arizona. Arizona laws have changed a little bit regarding firm ownership. How has that affected the legal space? Has it affected it yet? Did it slow down with COVID? What are you guys seeing out there?
Originally, a lot of the hedge funds and investors were afraid to dip their toes in the water. And over the last 6 months or so, we've seen just people diving in. They're just diving in completely.
Because
we're going to see a lot of people coming in. I know Morgan just came into our market. I don't worry about competition. If Morgan can come in and take my market from me, then I wasn't good enough at what I was doing. You know, that's how I've always looked at it. I'm not one of those guys, you know, when we go into a market, you know, you have all the natives coming up and they're trying to send bar complaints and do whatever they can because they're afraid that the 800-pound gorilla is going to take away their food. Build a better mousetrap. Do better.
What's your take on generally on non-attorney ownership or investment in law firms?
I just think it's where the practice is going now. It's you know, one of the things we're looking at, and you know, we're focusing on. It's going to be just going forward with, you know, the potential to, you know, team up with other people around the country. We really think that this consolidation's where the future of law firms is going. It can't be anything else. It's just too many people fighting for too few cases now.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't make it work with onesies and twosies.
Yeah. And you're seeing it with, we talked COVID, but we haven't even touched on technology, right? These cars keep getting smarter, and I think about it. My car beeps every time I'm backing up or about to change lanes. Maybe there's someone in there, and some of these older cars are going to get off the road, especially I'm in California, and California is trying to get everyone into smart electric vehicles in the next, 3 years, which is wildly unreasonable for a lot of people, but it's going to change the dynamic of the road.
You're 100% right. I've been saying for the last probably 4 or 5 years, I see this as this is the asteroid that will kind of put us out of business, kind of like the dinosaurs. I've always felt it was going to be sometime late 2030s. I figured we had about another 12 to 15 years to make hay while the sun is shining in this business model. You're going to see a drastic reduction every year, though. I mean, more cars on the road have the brake. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can be about to pile in. Half the time I'm driving, my head's up my tush, and I'm driving and my car goes beep, 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 tells me about to smash into somebody. And then, everybody has that now. People aren't rear-ending people the same as they were. You're going to have fewer rear-enders. You have all these accident avoidance systems. But eventually with the autonomous vehicles, as they take over the roads in the next 12 to 15 years, the only real accident is going to be product liability suits.
Yeah. Well, and the volume of those is low. They might be.
You're going to have older cars on the road for another 10, 12 years. Yeah. But it is what it is. I mean, so let's make money doing what we do. There's still, investors, hedge funds look at everything in 5 to 7 year cycles. So there's still absolutely time to make money being a personal injury attorney and having fun and doing stuff in your community. You can't say the sky is falling. It is what it is. Yeah. It's just the world's changing. Maybe the next area of law will be, we're all going to become immigration lawyers.
I was about to ask, what's next then? It's, I don't see you as a guy that's ever going to retire. Is there, is there another area of law beckoning to you?
I don't know, something that I think obviously I think the personal injury of the future is going to end up being doing contracts, breach of contracts, business type cases on a contingency basis. We do some of that. We've done trademark and patent cases over the years on a contingency basis or a hybrid fee. We have a few guys on staff that are capable of handling those. I really like those cases.
Yeah, it's interesting. And
I like unicorn cases.
To handle them on a contingency fee basis. When you're a PI lawyer, you're used to that risk. A lot of people that practice that law aren't. Yeah.
Well, that's what you're competing with. I mean, in fact, a lot of the Silicon Valley patent firms are actually starting to adapt to a hybrid model, but they do it very, very rarely. They're not cowboys like we are. We're so used to just taking risk. The vast majority of personal injury attorneys are not risk averse.
Yeah.
We know we're willing to take a shot on a person's case because the likelihood of success is high. So when you look at a more difficult type of a case, a patent or trademark case, but if there's a big reward in the end, we're good at weighing risk and reward, and we're always going to take the chance.
It's one of my favorite things about working with PI lawyers. You guys are just fun businessmen and savvy, right? When it comes to that kind of thing, it's a very different perspective than a lot of lawyers. I think that, I think generally attorneys have a reputation of being risk averse and cautious and things like that. And it's a lot to say, I'm going to open up a PI practice and not make any money for a year, right?
Yeah, I've told the story a bunch of times. I think I probably even told it in your little thing here. But, a guy came up to me, maybe a year after I started advertising, 2 years after I started advertising when I was just in Vegas. And he said, Glenn, hey, man, I've been seeing the TV a lot. How much is your overhead? And I was like, I don't know, $300,000 a month. He said, how do you go to sleep at night? I said, well, I never thought about it once. But that's my mentality. I've never thought about once. There's never been a month that we haven't paid our people or ever. That's what no matter how much we might suck sometimes, we always pay our bills. Our employees are always paid. The roof is still there. And, now with the overheads, 15, 20 times as much, we still make it all the time because we've created a machine and we weren't afraid. We never said, what if? I think if you're a type of person that even thinks that way, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that happen? Is feel. You feel, and there's no such thing as feeling. You know,
A
feeling is
learning
just an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
Failures, there is no failure. It's an opportunity to learn, you know, and be better.
Yeah. So, Glenn, one of the things that really touched me as we talked about having you on, first of all, next time it's going to be in person. As you guys can all tell, Glenn's an in-person guy. And if you think you're enjoying this conversation, imagine if we were all sitting together in one room. So
especially in Newport, I'd be super happy hanging out in Newport.
We'll bring you out to Orange County out here in California, and we'll get together. But I'm sure, Guy, I know you're in Chicago out there watching, so probably wouldn't mind coming out here and warming up. But you know, one of the things that really touched me was your desire to connect with other firms, with younger firms that maybe need help or want advice or whatever they want. You want them to reach out to you. You're giving them your email, you're giving them your cell phone. So can you talk a little bit about that, and how can people reach out to you, and, you know, your willingness to mentor?
Yeah, sometimes, and I do that sometimes, and then I get like a bunch of emails and I need to call everybody back, and then the email's here, and if I've ever gotten your email or you've called and I can get back to it, I'm so sorry. It wasn't any disrespect. It's just 8,000 other emails came and I just completely forgot. So I'll try not to do that. I'll try to be a little more organized. But I think after one of these, I may have missed a couple of people and I felt really bad. I just can't find the emails then. Don't forget, I'm not savvy like the rest of you people.
Everyone knows you're a busy guy, Glenn. I don't think anyone can hold it against you.
I'm no busier than anybody else. Yeah. It's just I think I have to be a little more organized sometimes with things like that. But yeah, anybody can call me anytime. You know, my cell phone is simple. It's 480-823-6339, 480-823-6339, or email me. And if you put something in the subject line on the email, put like CASEpeer mentorship or something like a CASEpeer friendship, whatever. I want to be a CASEpeer pen pal. But it's just my name. And my personal email is Glen, Glen, Lerner, Lerner, at me.com. Glen Lerner at me.com. Yeah. But I'm, you know me. You've gotten to know me now over the last several years. I'm a relational guy. I'm not a transactional guy. I don't go into anything saying, what can I get out of this? Mm-hmm. If something comes of something, cool. If it doesn't, I just like touching people's lives. I think it's cool. I think I can add a lot of value to people's lives. You know, I've made every mistake you can make in this business, you know, and somehow I think my successes have, you know, surpassed my failures by just enough to keep a roof over my head. And, but I try to learn from the failures. And I think it probably goes with I have no aversion to risk. So I'm always willing to take those chances and try new things. And, you know, I love the opportunity to do things with other people. You know, we've had a number of people around the country we've looked at, you know, partnering up with, doing practices with. You know, we've tried it with a couple of people. One person didn't work out that great. It is what it is. You're only as good as the people you get into bed with sometimes, you know?
Well, and, you know, I think just over the years that you've created, how many jobs you've created, how many clients' lives you've touched, it's a beautiful thing. And I know there's more bright things in the future ahead.
Yeah, well, you know, the nice thing is I like doing this. Mm-hmm. You know, there's really, I've never had to dig ditches or anything. You know, growing up how I grew up, you know, you've heard how I grew up. I had a dad in jail for double murder. I grew up on welfare. I've been so blessed. Mm-hmm. And I never forgot where I came from. I'm just having fun. I like doing what I'm doing. I couldn't envision myself doing anything else.
It's a blessing.
You know, I think it works great with my personality, just to relate with people, bring energy, have fun. But I'm good at this too. I understand the dynamics of personal injury, building a practice, building cases, dealing with clients. You know, because I've done it. I've represented over 200,000 people. You can count on one hand the people have done that, and probably maybe one or two fingers. Mm-hmm. You know, we've handled a lot of cases, and you know, I've learned, and I just like what I do. I'm having fun. What a cool thing. When, you know, most people hate lawyers, and when we get these emails or Facebook messages, man, thank you guys for what you do in the community. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. People almost like us.
Well, I'll just share that every single time I come out to visit you guys, usually out in Phoenix, but also in Vegas, I'm sitting in the Uber and the Uber driver figures out where we're going without fail. You know, it depends on the age of the. I was like, I grew up with Glen Lerner. I wanted to be buff like Glen Lerner. I wanted to work out like Glen Lerner. Like, and it's never a negative reaction, which I think is quite rare and something to.
Oh, they must not have been clients then.
Oh, please. But overwhelmingly, like, people think of it very fondly, and that's the power of the brand. And something really,
yeah, absolutely. I think we've created a very approachable brand where you're just two regular guys that just have kind of done well and, you know, done well without stepping on people. You'll never hear anything bad about us from anybody. Yeah. You know, I think we try to, I think one of the great things in business is if you try to put the needs of everybody else before your own needs, especially your employees, then you're going to do well. The people that look at life as transactions, what can I get from this? How much can I get from my employees and burn them out? My thing is the exact opposite. How much can I give to my employees? How good can I make their lives without letting them all work remotely completely? You know?
Of course, of course. Well, Glen, thank you so much for being here. It's truly a joy to have you. We'll have you in person out in Newport next time, so everybody stay tuned. We'll get that on the calendar. And please reach out to Glen. Don't forget to put CASEpeer in the subject line, and you can always filter on those emails. And
yeah, thank you. Yeah,
and again, thanks so much, Glen. Really appreciate it, and love all the work that you do, both in legal and in your communities. It's really amazing.
To the few of you out there that had nothing better to do with the last hour or last 40 minutes, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.